Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of Borrow My Belief, a place where our aim is to inspire you to live your dreams and show you how that's possible. And today is very, very exciting for me, as in this first episode, I've invited my beautiful daughter, Anu, who I've had the pleasure of watching her journey throughout her life. And I can't think of anybody better to be here as a guest on this creation to talk about her journey. So, welcome, Anu.
Hello. Also, thank you for having me. Got to welcome my son as well. We've
Yes.
got three generations. Little Sky, he is lying here next to me, and um, at any point, he is my number one priority. So I may be breastfeeding, I may be having to meet his needs. So just want to let you all know there's another being in the building.
And of course, he's welcome as well. Our future generations. And here we are to inspire. So, Anu, like I've mentioned already, I'm your mum. I've
Oh,
watched
really?
you. I've watched you on your journey, and I think I'll start, and you might remember it a little bit different to I do, and you can expand on this. You were very strong-willed as a child,
Mhm.
very, very young, and I remember you coming home from school around about, I'd say 14-ish, maybe a little bit younger, and saying to me, we lived a very conventional life at that point, and saying something along the lines of, Mum, I've been to an assembly today. All they're interested in is results. And I just want you to know, if you think I'm going to do what you and Dad have done here, just get that out of your mind now. So, shall we start there, Anu?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I definitely feel that since a young age. I mean, I grew up in beautiful home in the conventional, amazing neighborhood where outwardly people might say that it was the ideal life. The the fancy cars, the big house. Um, I I got to see from a young age that that is not what it looks like. That actually within this idyllic home setting and these idyllic neighbors, there's a lot of internal corruption. There's a lot of unhappy people. And I have so much love for my parents and my mom, who's been on her own massive journey. But I could see that working the 9 to 5, being in the corporate world was not fulfilling for my parents. And even though they seemed to have all the things, the nice holidays we'd go on, the abundance and overflow of money, they weren't happy.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of stress in the space. And so for me, I was like, there's no way I'm doing this. I'm not following the path, even though both my parents didn't go to university. I went to very growing up in this leafy suburban area,
Mhm.
the path was, it's almost like it was laid out before me of how I should live my life. And what was encouraged was you go to school, you get your great results, you go to university, you get an amazing job. And I I got my amazing results. I got my straight A's, and it felt like with where I was growing up, there was an expectation to go be a lawyer, to go be a doctor, to take that route. And something within me, something that I would say my deepest core or the higher intelligence was saying, no, no chance am I going to sell my time and sell my soul, sell my creativity. I've always loved the creative arts and I love drama and um, free expression from a young age. There's no way I'm going to put myself in a box. And so from a young age, I came home and I would say, Mum, I'm not doing this. And I had this burning desire. I didn't know what career path I wanted to follow, but burning desire to travel and escape and break free, rebel essentially from this mold of being the good girl, of following what was all my peers and friends were going into. And so I set out on a mission to do just that.
And that you did, honey. And I've learned so much from you. And it would be really lovely for the listeners to hear, because they might have a perception. You've mentioned you came from a wealthy family, that we supported you in this. They might have the perception that you actualized all that and we encourage you, but that wasn't the case. This was your own journey. And I watched you go through lots of twists and turns, lots of fears, breaking out of many molds, internal chaos, maybe, to actualize this. And there might be somebody right now who's in a position very similar to what you were then, watching, thinking, oh, I can't do that. They might be looking at people on YouTube, content creators, whatever it is that they want. Can you speak to those, like the younger version of you, let's say, that might be thinking, how am I going to do this? I know I want to, I know my soul wants to, but I don't know how.
Yeah, I would love to. I first of all want to share that if you are living in that convention and if you have taken that road, there's nothing wrong with that. There's been times where I dipped into it as well. And I don't want to make the idea that that is a bad thing, because there are people who that fits with so perfectly and their genius might flourish through university, might flourish through these systems. I don't feel it's for everybody. And so just want to share, if you're living that, I hope you can have some deep self-compassion and not make yourself wrong if that's where you're at. First of all, I think self-compassion is the most important step through your own freedom. So speaking to somebody who might be in that system or might be in high school and thinking, well, my parents won't agree with this. I'm going to seem crazy if I follow my heart, because the heart, from my experience, doesn't necessarily make sense to the mind. So for me, okay, simply if you know what it is that you want to create, maybe it's, I want to travel, then the first thing that comes up is how. How do I get there? Oh my gosh. And it can seem like the biggest, most monumental mountain and you don't know where to start, which can feel overwhelming. And so for me, my journey and my experience was, I knew that if I was going to lean into that heart, lean into the travel, that my parents might not necessarily be on board. And I would have to face the discomfort of that. And it was true. Less so from you, my mum. I knew that I wouldn't financially be supported, and finance is a strong component in that. So at 16, I went to work in a retail job, and alongside getting my qualifications in school, I worked every single hour that I could. And even though that felt a bit backwards, like I'm stepping into the system and I'm working and I'm selling my time, that was my ticket to freedom. To save up the money as a 16-year-old to, here's Sky, by the
way. Welcome, Sky.
to have the agency to book flight, to get out to these countries, to experience something different. And I didn't have the means at the time, or perceive that I had the means at the time, to be self-employed, to be an entrepreneur. And so that was my way. I had to sacrifice going on nights out with my friends at that age. I sometimes wouldn't go to the cinema. I would put my deepest goals first. So I saved up the money and then I used it. Travel across Europe, first of all, at 17, as soon as I could, to then come home and work 2 jobs so that I could save up the money to then get out to Malaysia, that I could go to Bali, that I could go to Australia and earn some money there. And I really did live that. And at the time, it felt so expansive and it felt like university for me, learning through experience.
Mm-hmm.
However, through my many, through the many blessings that came from that, I also realized I don't want to keep having to work to save to travel, then to work to save to travel. And I was seeking something greater. Like, how can I make this my life? And maybe that's where you're at watching this. How can I make this so that this is just the lifestyle that I am embodying and living?
Yes. And as you were speaking there, and as you shared at the beginning, we might have somebody watching who's kind of in the opposite circumstances. They might be growing up in an area where their family are not affluent and they want to go to university, and that's their dream. So we're talking in general here. It is possible to do what seems to be the impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking from that perspective, and you've gone on your journey, I've watched you go through what looks like this, and we'll talk a little bit about your life now. And before that, if you were to look back and see that journey unfold and give our listeners any words of wisdom from living that, the highs, the lows, the ups and downs, twists and turns, what wisdom would you impart now?
Mm. Mm. Following your heart and following the path less trodden is uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel there's no escaping that discomfort.
Those listeners that are watching today, I know that have got a dream and they're looking into the future, actualizing this dream. They will go through challenging times, that's for sure. Or they might be going through challenging times now as they're moving towards it, which might seem as though they'll never end, those times. Do you have any words of wisdom looking back on your journey that you would like to share about moving through those periods?
Yeah, I would share that it's necessary to live the challenges. And often being in the challenges, we want to escape them. And from my journey of external adventure and traveling across the world, I came face to face with a lot of challenges, which for me led me internally. And what would help? What would help anybody going through that right now, or my past self? Coming back to what I shared at the beginning, self-compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that we are never given any situation or circumstances that is more than what we're capable of moving through, and that it's the gold within that big mountain. The gold is the discomfort, because when discomfort arises, that's an opportunity to look within. That's an opportunity to break a cycle of what in our life has been limiting us. I feel the greatest expansion is in the challenge. And when we can slow down, we can take our deep breaths, and instead of run away and distract with substance or with social media, there's a million things to distract ourselves with.
Mm-hmm.
When we can slow down and get comfortable in the discomfort. And I'm not saying it's easy, it's still a huge learning for me. Yet I would say that is priceless. It's the discomfort that allows us to unravel, allows us to get closer to our genius, to the core of our being. And rather than compile and add more in, of, okay, what do I need to get out of this? Or what do I need to learn to move through this situation? For me, specifically, I would say it's been more a journey in these past years of unlearning, of
Mm.
of shedding the beliefs, shedding the stories internally that come from our parents, that come through conditioning, that are no longer necessary. So I would say self-compassion and sticking with the discomfort. Don't run away from it, because that is where you can meet the greatest transformation. And when we transform internally, our external transforms.
I've got chills as I listen to you. And I think it's fair to say, and I'm wondering whether you would agree, that the more we actualize, the more we expand, the more we grow into what we want, those, what people call problems, grow with us. So that discomfort is something to learn to befriend.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a take on that?
Yeah. When it's funny, if we enter into this so-called spiritual path, or the path of achieving our goals and dreams,
Yes.
I've found that there's somewhere in the psyche that thinks, if I get to this place, everything's going to be okay. If I get to this place, then I'll be happy, then I'll be fulfilled, then I will have the peace I'm longing for. And what I've found through living this, and what so many before me and so many to come will find, is that there's not a destination. That peace, that happiness, that fulfillment. I want to be careful when I share this, but so take this loosely. It never comes.
Yeah, I understand.
This future that we're longing for is, hello, sweetheart, is an illusion. We can only ever find what we're longing for in the present moment.
And you were a great teacher for me in that. I remember saying, Mum, enjoy your journey now. There'll come a day when you'll look back and wish that you'd have enjoyed these very moments.
Yeah.
And that is so true. So true.
Settling into what's here is beautiful. And to just expand on what you were sharing, yes, even if you got all the external things that you wanted, what then? You're still going to meet challenges. You're still, you've shared this with me yourself, and I've heard it from many people who have leaned into their dreams and the path of that, what I would say the path of the heart. The challenges may even become bigger.
Or seemingly bigger.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because our capacity to grow is expanding. And so what we are capable of holding and moving through also expands, which can seem very challenging.
Beautiful. So, on that note, tell me what life is looking like for you now.
Well, right now I am a single mama with my gorgeous boy Sky, who is receiving my undivided attention at the moment to the best of my ability. I am living in a magical town in England called Glastonbury. It's like the real life Harry Potter. And I am on the path of the heart. The just tuning in, deepening in my self, deepening into self shadow work. I'm treating this postnatal period like a retreat, where I'm at the moment is not so much about the external and where I want to be and the travel and the offering and being in service. My magic is based in leadership, where I hold workshops, and one day my dream is to be running retreats, particularly around the taboo subject in the West of death. And at the moment, that's not what I am able to pour all of my time into. And why would I? Because I've got this one who is the greatest teacher. He's helping me all of the internal cracks and depths of my being. So right now I'm really deepening in the work that I want to bring to the world. Instead of producing and creating from a space of fear that I have to and rush and I should, I am really blessed with the circumstance that I'm not in a financial rut. I'm not thinking if I don't do this, then I won't have enough. I I have cultivated a level of safety within myself that is manifested on the material plane. So I've got to move through some guilt of this as well, where actually at the moment I don't have um to work. And I mean, this in a sense is work. Being a mum is full time. So at the moment I am taking the opportunity to deepen into myself, look at my shadows, let them unfurl so that when the time comes, I can bring that work, my passion from a space of presence, from love. I feel that when we build something in rush, we don't have the steady foundations that it requires to take off. So I feel that touches on your question. Is there anything else?
There was so much gold in there, and I feel like we could talk forever. For those of you watching that don't know what shadows are, that's the unconscious and beliefs that we've gathered growing up that are limiting us from getting what we want. And we can do another podcast on that in the future. We can talk about those types of things. And what I'd like to ask is if you were to look back on the you at 14 years old that came home to me and said this, Mum, I'm not doing this, the one that had the dreams that she had then, and you were to say any words to her, what would you say to her now?
I would say to her, it's all perfect. And I would look her in her eyes and I would really want to see her and let her know she is valued. And just like I said, perfect exactly as she is, that all of those crunchy, sticky, seemingly yucky parts inside of us that we want to avoid are welcome. I would want to look her, hold her hands, embrace her, and say, all of you is welcome. It all gets to be loved. And I would also share, we're going to go on quite the journey, year one. There's going to be times when you feel so stretched to your edges. There's going to be times where you're going to feel really alone. And yet we're never alone. I guess I'd share quite a few things.
So beautiful.
I would share with her that actually sometimes when life seems to be going in the opposite direction to what you would like, that is actually sometimes so mystically and mysteriously moving you towards the very path, the very situations that you've been longing for. And it's not always the way we want things to go that are actually the best for us.
And for our viewers watching this, where can they find you, Anu, and what's your journey?
So they can find me on Instagram, which is at Anu Faye, Anufaye. That's the best place, really. I love to share at the moment. I love sharing my voice. I love sharing insights that come through. We haven't dove into this, but at 16, I started to have my own very peculiar and bizarre experiences of mysticism when I would see things beyond the physical reality, where I would have this spiritual I don't even know what to call it, the
Mhm.
spiritual desire to explore what's beyond and connect with spiritual beings, angels, the unseen. So I love to tune into that. I love to share from that place rather than what my mind says, allowing something greater, which for many you may call God, maybe in your religion. For me, I call it love,
Yeah.
the universe, what wants that greater force. And even if you're very intellectual, logically thinking person, I'm sure at some point we've all had that sense that there's something greater.
Mhm.
And I am in the journey of letting that something greater move through me. So if you want to see what flows from that space and my expression, then that's where you can find me.
Wonderful. And I'm quite sure you'll agree with me that many people who are looking to break out of the mold in whatever way that might look for them, because each person's convention looks a little bit different according to the experience that they've got, then I think you sharing from your heart, showing it doesn't have to look, we can be individual, it doesn't have to look like everybody else. For them to follow you, you're showing that. And if you were to describe what you feel your mission is in the world right now, what would you say?
First of all, actually, as you're sharing, I want to share something that you taught me, which is so beautiful. You said, we're only given dreams and visions because in some reality, if we take time as not a linear thing, they they've happened.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you could put that into more graceful words, but we're given these ideas of dreams because they are possible.
Yeah.
So, what's my mission? My mission is to help people go within, to go inside, to cultivate a relationship with ourselves and deepen in self compassion, to access the beyond. I believe that while I may have psychic visions and be able to meet somebody and tell them what's going to happen in their life, I believe everybody has the capability of tuning into the mysteries, spirituality, and mysticism. So, my mission is to help people tune into that themselves, help people to reunite with their internal power. And
Wow.
particularly women, I feel this is where my journey is going, helping young women, to bring back the power inside. So where we live in a world where we're often believing that something outside of us can complete us, something outside of us can help us, but actually recognizing that we all have self-agency and everything we need inside of us. And that doesn't mean connecting with others and community doesn't help bring that closer, but I feel when we meet ourselves in a compassionate way, like I've been sharing, that's when our true community, our true soul family, and true soul connections come in to help us live our genius. So what's
Mm.
my mission? How would I distill that? Mm. Helping people connect
Mhm.
compassionately with themselves.
That's wonderful. So I've had the privilege of watching you so far. I got the privilege of watching you moving forward, actualizing your dreams and helping people with that. And as a last word for our viewers, if you were to give one little nugget, something that you would like to say to them, what would that be? Anna and I took a break, and here we are back with a little bit of a blunder. Whilst I was away, my earphones burned on a candle that I did for this podcast. And Anu shared a little bit of wisdom with me. Do you want to share?
So I wouldn't frame that as a blunder.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what I was sharing before, I would ask you, and maybe you'd like to share now, and maybe the answer isn't available to you now, and it's something to ponder in the future.
Mhm.
What is the gift in that? What is the gift in something that appeared to be inconvenient or a blunder to you?
Mhm.
What do you get to grow into?
And this is what you were talking about when you were saying about your message, challenges. There's
Mm-hmm.
something in those challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately, my answer would be that I was going to buy a microphone for the sake of these podcasts. And I didn't buy it as I'd allocated the money I have for other things. So I get to sit and breathe into that. Where was that coming from? Also, the
Where
circumstances,
was what coming from?
the thought that I couldn't get the microphone that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How beautiful that
Yes.
every challenge offers us a gift. And that might mean that the next podcast, you do have a microphone or you don't. But it's things that if we allow ourselves to give us the gift of looking deep, why did that happen?
And one thing that I've learned, well, I've learned more than this. Something that I've learned is that the life, the seemingly external, is like a billboard for what's going on internally. So another thing I can go away and I can reflect on this more is presence. You know, I ran off to the toilet and I left this the way it was, the candle near the microphone. Was I present to these moments? What is that
Mhm.
showing me? I was sure we could go
Well,
than that.
what I would love to offer to anybody who might have had a similar situation, maybe it's not their microphone, or maybe something's happened, they've locked themselves out the house, which I did recently. What I would love to bring to that, which is feels like my message,
Mhm.
is can you be so gentle with yourself through that journey, because the inner critic, the voices in our head that go, oh gosh, why did I do that, that want to be hard, our world is rife with judgment of the self, let alone judgment of the other. Oh my gosh, bringing that gentleness. If I actually could leave this podcast with anything, is please, please be gentle with yourself.
That's beautiful, Anu. And I'd just like to take a moment to recognize the imperfect in the perfect, or the perfect in the imperfect. That was your message. And we got to talk in real life through an example of that
Mm-hmm.
on this podcast. The
Mm-hmm.
magic of the perfection of life.
I want to ask you a question. Since you're going to be setting the platform and stage for so many inspiring conversations to come, and however this podcast takes its journey, I would love to ask you why you feel to create this, why you've you know set the stage.
This is my beautiful wise daughter, everybody.
Oh,
You can see how it's been so incredible to be riding this wave with her. Anyway, I have wanted to live my dreams. Oh, I'm remembering that moment in that multi-story car park where you pleaded with me to live my dreams. And I turned to you and said, actually, you were on the side that I can see you now on the screen. And I said to you, not in this lifetime, honey, maybe in the next, and you can go and live yours. And here I am, actualizing. I've actualized many of the dreams I had then, and I'm on a path of actualizing more. And so, my purpose of this community that I'm creating here is to show people that they're not alone. Dreams are possible, they can do it. And if they don't believe they can borrow my belief for now.
oh.
That's it.
I
Thank you for
feel
asking me that.
so incredibly blessed to have you as my mother. And I know you will inspire many people through this stage. So thank you.
Thank you, honey. It's been such a pleasure to have you as my first guest on this creation, and I'm sure we'll have you back.
Yes, I'll be back with pleasure.
So, with that, much love to everybody, and we look forward to witnessing you create your dreams. And if anyone would like to be a guest, you can DM me, let me know your story. If you want to inspire others and show something that you've created, then let's have a conversation. And bye for
Beautiful.
now.
Thank you so much, love.
Thank you.